What is up, everyone? It is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Gigi! Oh, you just wobbled the whole camera. And so you probably clicked on this video because you want to be a resident assistant, also known as an RA in your college. And so today I'm going to be talking all about the resident assistant position in colleges, but also specifically UC Berkeley related, because that is where obviously I am the most knowledgeable about everything from the RA hiring timeline to applications to application and interview advice. And so if you are new to my channel, hello, my name is Rachel. I graduated from UC Berkeley in May of 2020, where I double majored in cognitive science and legal studies, and right now I am currently working full-time at a law firm. And so about me, I was a resident assistant my sophomore year of college, and then I was a senior resident assistant my junior and senior years of college. So I lived in the dorms all 4 years of college, and I was a hall staff member for 3 out of my 4 years, besides freshman year. And additionally as well, for my junior and senior year, I worked as a hiring and training coordinator with Residential Life. So in that job, I got to see all of the back end of the RA hiring timelines and interview process. So I am pretty much an expert in this field. And so if you are a student applying to colleges this upcoming year, you should definitely check out Study Hall College Consulting. It's a team of myself and other UC Berkeley students where we specialize in reviewing your college application essays, as well as consulting one-on-one with students or parents who may have additional questions about the application process or want additional tips. So we have a website which you should definitely check out, and on our website also we have a free blog where we post weekly tips, so definitely check that out. So without further ado, let's get started with my resident assistant tip. So the first thing is, what is a resident assistant, also known as RA? So basically the RA is an older student who lives in the dorms with the first year students or transfer students, and then the RA basically acts as a mentor or guide for the other students. So the RA will meet with students, you can ask your RA for advice. The RA will also have a budget where they can put on get to know each other events to help build community. And so a main draw of the RA position is that for a lot of colleges you get free housing and a free meal plan by being a resident assistant. So for me at UC Berkeley, that would pretty much be like $20,000 by being a resident assistant because of the high cost of housing in the San Francisco Bay Area and the meal plan. Other colleges I know, for their RAs, they get the free housing and the free food, and they also get a stipend on top of that. So I think it really depends on your college and what the cost of housing and the cost of living is in your college town. And so I think being an RA is really great if you are interested in building community and creating friendships among residents. For me, a big draw of the position is because I was an out-of-state student from Maryland going to California, and so I didn't really know anyone my freshman year, so I really wanted to become an RA. So for my sophomore, junior, and senior years, I could help create a community on my floors to allow students to make friends with one another and build those lifelong friendships, especially for students who might not know anyone, who might be coming from out of state, who might be coming from a high school where none of their friends came to this college. And so I really recommend reading the job description on your school's website so it can help you understand what the position is and the responsibilities of the job. There are so many times when people submit applications or are interviewing to become an RA, and it becomes super evident that they really have no idea about what the RA does and what the position is. So learning about the job and what an RA actually does on a day-to-day basis is very important. So the next thing is the timeline of RA applications and that whole process. Before going into college, if you are interested in becoming a resident assistant, you want to know when when things are due and when applications open, because it is different for every school. For UC Berkeley, applications to become an RA open typically in October, and then they close in November of the fall semester. So if you missed that deadline, then you wouldn't be able to apply for the upcoming year. You would be applying in fall 2021 for potentially being in the job for the fall 2022 to spring 2023 school year. So you're basically applying a whole year in advance from when you would actually be in the position. So for Berkeley, that's pretty early, I feel like, because if you're a freshman or transfer student new to the school, you basically have 2 months and then you're already applying to become a resident assistant for the next year. So that's something to keep in mind so you don't miss that deadline. And so for Berkeley, once applications close, you would hear back in January whether you were invited to interview or not. And then the RA interviews happen mid-January when classes start, and then by February you would hear back whether you were accepted to become an RA for the next year, whether you're on the wait list to become an RA, or whether you were rejected. And then during the spring semester, if you were accepted or if you were waitlisted to become an RA, then you would have to take a 1-unit course to become an RA. So it's basically like a pass no pass kind of class that you have to take, and then they teach you different things about like social justice and stuff like that. And so make sure you're aware of deadlines for whatever college you want to go to or apply to be an RA at, so you don't miss any deadlines. So something that you can do when you go to your college is to join the student government in your dorm. So a lot of colleges have some kind of student government in the dorm where you can join, and that's a really great way to get to know the other people in the dorm, as well as the RAs in your dorm and the RA supervisors in your dorms. At Berkeley, this kind of student government is called Hall Association, with different positions like president, different kinds of vice presidents, treasurer, stuff like that. So basically like your high school student government. And so I joined this my freshman year. I was the RHA member for my dorm, which stands for Residence Hall Assembly Member. And so I got to go to these other meetings on Monday nights where I got to meet students from all of the different UC Berkeley dorms, and we got to vote on like bills and legislations and host big events for all of the dorms. So joining your student government, joining Hall Association is a really great way to get involved, because you get to meet resident assistants that aren't your own resident assistants, and also at Berkeley, the resident director, which is the RA's supervisor, so like the boss of the RAs at the dorm, also helps to supervise Hall Association. And so that's a really great way to get FaceTime with the resident directors, because they will be the people that would be interviewing you if you get an interview in January. So just being on a first name basis with those people is a great way to get your foot in the door and to have people recognize you. Additionally, before the RA applications open, you might want to schedule some time with your resident assistant or the resident director, which, like I said, is like the supervisor of the RAs, so like the boss person in the dorm, to schedule some kind of coffee chat kind of meeting where you can basically tell your RA or the RD like, hey, I'm interested in becoming an RA. Do you have any tips for me? Or can you explain what the RA job does and like what kind of qualifications you're looking for? Just sort of, coffee chat style, asking questions that you're interested in the position. And that's also a really great way to learn about what an RA does from a first-hand account. So you can see like, oh, what does my RA like about the job? What do they dislike about the job? What's their favorite part of the job? Just to see if like, oh, is that something I'm really interested in, or is it not really something that I want to do as a job? So make sure you read the directions and all of the things that you have to do in order to apply. If your school makes you go to an information session, make sure you go, make sure you sign in, make sure you get on that attendance sheet so they know you were there. So like for Berkeley, a big thing is to have your application in one single PDF that's like on the website multiple times, and people still submit their applications as like Word documents or like numerous Word documents or numerous PDFs. Like, no, multiple places in the application it says one single PDF. You have to combine all of your documents and make it into a PDF. Same thing as not following the directions. That's a stupid reason to not get your app considered. Another big thing is to follow the word count. And so for Berkeley's application, they say put the word count at the beginning of your prompt. Some people don't put the word count there, or they go over the word count. Like, it says the number of words that you're allowed, and that's the max number of words. So like blatantly going over it or not including the word count, that's just another stupid mistake. So make sure you are reading the application carefully and following all of the directions. So another big thing is to apply early and apply before the deadline. There have been so many times as a hiring coordinator where I saw emails of people emailing us after the application deadline like, hey, I missed the deadline, can I have an extension? Or like, oh, I missed the deadline like because of XYZ, my like internet died the night that the deadline was due. But then we're like, yo, the application was open for an entire month, why didn't you start earlier, kind of thing. If your like internet happens to go down the last 30 minutes when the application was due, and then you email us like 24 hours later, like that just looks suspicious. So just make sure you start early, so if you do have like family emergencies or your Wi-Fi internet goes down, that you still meet the deadline. So moving into interview tips, I definitely recommend you go watch my other video all about interview tips and advice for doing interviews online and in person. I will have that video linked down below, as well as like in that little bar up top, because that video has a ton of tips that I'm not going to be repeating in this video. And the cool thing about the RA interviews is that they actually email you the topics that the questions are going to be on. So on the screen now, I have my email from 2017 when I was invited to RA interviews. You can see literally the email has the topics that the questions are going to be on. So there is no reason why you shouldn't practice those topics. You know, you can Google like popular teamwork questions and then practice those questions with a friend. I would read the RA job description and see like, okay, for crisis response and resources, what does the RA job entail? What kind of crises do you have to handle? Talk to your RA about those kinds of things. But you know, when they are emailing you the topics that you need to be prepared for and talking about, there is no reason why you shouldn't practice beforehand and be unprepared for the interview. So I would practice those 5 topics. Google fake questions and practice them. Write down some answers that you would give to those questions, and make sure you use concrete examples. I think the biggest mistake and worst thing that I see when I've interviewed other people for student jobs at Berkeley would be that people would either talk too much, talk in circles, and they wouldn't really answer the question, and they never really gave any specific examples. So if the question is like, tell me about a time that you worked in a team, and you never really say a time that you worked in a team, that is bad. So before your interview, practice and have concrete examples for those 5 topics and do some practice questions. Another thing with the interviews is to come up with questions to ask the interviewers. So at the end, sometimes you have some downtime and you don't want it to be awkward. So usually the RA or the professional staff will ask you like, do you have any questions for us? So just have some questions in the back of your mind that you would ask them, so you don't just sit there like, oh no, I don't have any questions, because you should just have some questions prepared, because you don't know everything about the job since you've never been in the job before. You can ask easy things like, what's your favorite part about being an RA? What's your least favorite part or hardest part about being an RA? You can ask them about being on duty at nighttime, or ask them about their favorite RA event that they put on for residents. Just little things like that are super easy, and it makes it look like you care about the position that you're applying for. And so my last thing is about the resident assistant waitlist for Berkeley. After the interviews, like I said, you're either accepted, waitlisted, or rejected. For me, I was actually waitlisted as an RA when I applied my freshman year, and then I got off of the RA waitlist pretty early, I would say in like April or May, before the school year even ended. So I knew that I was going to be an RA come August the next school year. And I would say you should stay on the waitlist if you are offered a waitlist position. I would recommend maybe finding university housing, so living in the on-campus dorms, that next year if you're on the waitlist, so then it's easier to get out of your dorm contract and then become an RA, versus if you signed a lease for an off-campus apartment or something like that, then it's a lot harder to like drop your lease in the middle of the year to become an RA. So that's just something to think about. And so yeah, those were my tips on how to become a resident assistant, the entire timeline, application, interview process. So definitely let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions. I would love to answer answer them. And do let me know if you wanted to see more videos like this. As always, thank you so much for watching. I post every single Sunday and Wednesday, so make sure you like this video to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. Thank you so much, and I will see you all next time.